Part 97. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 961. I smiled at her and said, "Extinguish the flames on your body first. I'll be fine." But, I said, "Nothing to worry about, I can do it." Seeing my persistence, Jin said nothing and could only stop burning his own fat. Only I know whether I can do it or not. I just consumed too much Zaiwei Qi, and now I can't rely on Zaiwei Qi to protect my body at all. I can only let these black mist continue to corrode my body. At this moment, I felt itchy and hot all over my body, as if there were a lot of little bugs crawling around. I suppressed the discomfort, grabbed the rope and started to climb up. As time goes by, this itching feeling gradually turns into a tingling sensation. It's like countless silver needles are stabbing your body crazily. In order not to worry Jins, I could only hold back and not make any sound. At this moment, black mist flowed around me, and Kaiuksha appeared beside me with a sinister smile. "I didn't expect that you wouldn't die even if you did this. You're really tough." At this moment, I can't wait to cut this Kaiuksha in front of me with 1,000 knives. If it weren't for the repair of the formation eye and the black mist, how could I have made him so arrogant? This time, I'm going to eat your head. Kaiuksha opened his big mouth and swallowed me. Just when Hyaksha's bloody mouth was about to swallow me up, suddenly there was a roar of thunder above the head, followed by thunder falling from the sky. It was draped directly on Hyaksha's body. Hyaksha made an unexpected mistake and was punished. I saw the right moment, suddenly stretched out my right hand, and grasped it in the air, and the heart sword was held in my hand. I held the heart sword in my hand and stabbed Hyaksha's chest fiercely. There was only a puff sound, and Hyaksha's chest was pierced by the heart sword. I activated the soul-stealing blood hand, and the scarlet blood instantly covered my entire right arm, and then spread to the entire heart sword. I silently recited the seal of the 9 layers of thunder in my heart. Bloody lightning burst out from the heart sword. Hyaksha let out a mournful roar, his whole body trembled, and finally his soul was gone. Seeing Hyaksha's soul completely gone, I couldn't help but feel relieved. This damn guy made me suffer so much. After a while, Su Tianqian came to Jin's head. She said to Jins, "You go up first." Jins nodded and climbed up along the rope. Su Tianqian came above me and saw that my whole body was exposed in the black mist. She scolded, "I told you to show off. Now it's better. You should suffer the consequences." Although Su Tianqian was blaming, his words were full of distress. I raised a wry smile on my lips and said nothing. Su Tianqian reached out and grabbed my hand, and then, a golden light spread from her hand to my body. The moment the golden light possessed him, all the discomfort on his body disappeared instantly. "Let's go up quickly," Su Tianqian said. I nodded, followed Su Tianqian and climbed onto the boat. Along the way, we also encountered sea monkeys and snail spirits. But all of them were easily solved by Su Tianqian. Soon, we were back on the deck, and I sat on the ground breathing heavily. Su Tianqian squatted in front of me, grabbed my hand, and then looked at the skin on my arm, his eyes filled with distress. My exposed skin had rotted a little and turned into tiny dots. "But it's no big deal. Don't be so reckless next time." Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 962. I nodded and replied, "I know." Yu Sun Tao crossed her chest with her hands and came to the two of us. She smiled at Su Tianqian, and then joked, Yo. Does this make you feel distressed? I've known you for such a long time, but I haven't seen you feel sorry for me as your sister." Su Tianqian ignored her. Yu Sun Tao pretended to be heartbroken and said, "Oh, it's really sad, you know, when you have an apprentice, you forget about your sister." Su Tianqian stood up, glanced at Yu Sun Tao, and hummed softly. This made Yu Sun Tao and I freeze on the spot for a moment. Neither of us expected Su Tianqian to answer so simply. Su Tianqian turned around and walked towards the building. The moment she turned around, I saw the corners of her mouth raised slightly, revealing a sly smile. I looked at Su Tianxian's leaving figure with disbelief on my face. I really didn't expect that Su Tianqian would have such an eccentric side. Yu Sun Tao was so angry that her chest heaved violently. She put her hands on her hips and shouted at Su Tianqian, "Okay. Since you are so ruthless, then I will steal your apprentice." Su Tianqian hesitated, turned around, glanced at her lightly, and said, "You can give it a try." With that said, he walked into the cabin without even thinking about it. The corner of Yu Sun Tao's mouth twitched slightly, and she sighed helplessly, then turned her head and glared at me fiercely. What does this have to do with me? I rested for a while and recovered. I stood up and came to Jins. "Jins, how are you?" Jins was sitting quietly on the deck with his hands folded around his knees. Hearing my inquiry, he slowly looked at me and said, "I'm fine." I also sat down next to her and said, "Next time, you must not be so reckless. How can you make fun of your own life?" Jins lowered his eyes and whispered softly, "I just don't want to see anything happen to you. It was you who brought me out of that dark cave, and it was you and Master Tianqian who gave me my legs. To me, you are my friends and my relatives. My relatives are in danger, and I will save them even if I risk my life." I was slightly taken aback, not expecting that Jins had such a strong and stubborn heart underneath his seemingly soft appearance. For a moment I didn't even know what to say. Jins continued, "I think that if I encounter danger, you will do the same." I nodded and said, "You are right, I will never stand idly by. Whether it's Jins, Miao Fengluan, or Xia He, they are all my friends. When they are in danger, I will definitely try my best to save them." At this time, Su Tianqian found plaster from somewhere and squatted in front of me. "Hand out." I was stunned and said, "I can do this kind of thing myself." "No, hold out your hand." Seeing Su Tianxian's persistence, I could only extend my hand. Su Tianqian told me that this box of plaster was given to it by Su Fu, and it can treat trauma very well. It might hurt a little, just bear with it. I nodded, and Su Tianqian gently applied the plaster to the festering wound on my arm. Her hands were gentle, her movements gentle, and her expression very focused. After Su Tianqian finished wiping his arms and thighs, he said to me, "Okay, take off your clothes. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 963. Take off your clothes. I looked at Su Tianqian in disbelief. Su Tianqian said calmly, "You are also injured, and you can't paint your back." I swallowed hard and asked, do you want to do this? What do you think?" When Jin saw this scene, he stood up and left very wisely. I reached out and grabbed the corner of my clothes, trying to take them off. But, it's a bit embarrassing no matter how I do this. Su Tianqian did not urge him, but just sat quietly aside. Oh shit. Su Tianqian didn't even care. I, a grown man, was so coquettish that it didn't matter. Thinking of this, I took off my shirt directly. I was very thin before. Although I am still thin now, after such a long period of exercise, my figure can be said to be normal. Su Tianxian's originally indifferent eyes hid in a hurry when he saw me taking off my clothes. But she still couldn't suppress her curiosity and took a few secret glances. I could see all her little moves. I laughed secretly in my heart, pretending to be calm on the surface, but I never thought I would still be shy. Su Tianqian came behind me with the plaster, and then gently applied it on the wound on my back. I could clearly feel that Su Tianxuan's breathing was deliberately lowered. This also shows that Su Tianxian is extremely shy at this moment. Seeing her like this, I couldn't help but want to tease her. Su Tianxian finished applying it on the back, and then said, "You can just apply it on the front yourself." As he said that, he was about to hand me the box of plaster in his hand. I quickly said, "Tianxian, you see that you have already painted my back, why not be a good person and help me paint my front too?" Su Tianxuan's beautiful eyes trembled slightly, her eyes evaded, and hesitantly said, "The rest, you can do the rest yourself." I still said reluctantly, "Tianxian is good to you. Just be a good person and do it to the end. Please help me." Su Tianxian was slightly stunned, as if she didn't expect that I would talk to her in such a coquettish tone. Actually, I just wanted to tease her and see how she would react. "Okay, okay." Su Tianxuan's eyes dodged, not daring to look directly at me at all. "Lie down." With that said, I lay down. Su Tianxian smeared the plaster on his hands and gently applied it on my chest. I looked up at her and saw that her pretty face was slightly red, as if she had climbed up to 2 rays of sunset, so beautiful. At this moment, an irrelevant voice sounded. "Hey! Sister Tianxian, you are so considerate." Yu Sun Tao looked at Su Tianxian with a smile. Su Tianxian stood up suddenly, then threw the plaster in his hand on my body, and ran away in a hurry. At the end, he did not forget to leave a sentence, "You can apply it yourself." Sure enough, no matter how powerful Su Tianxian is, she is just a little girl. It seems, I am the first man to have such close contact with her. Yu Sun Tao picked up the plaster and joked, "Do you want sister to help you? My sister's hands are softer and more flexible than Sister Tianxuan's." I gave her a stern look, grabbed the plaster from her hand, and said, "I'll do it myself." Yu Sun Tao covered her mouth and smiled sweetly, "It seems that I have disturbed your good deeds." I ignored her and applied the plaster myself. After a while, Yu Sun Tao suddenly said, "Lu Su, how do you feel about your master?" I was stunned for a moment, turned my head to look at her, and asked, "What does it feel like?" Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 964. Yu Sun Tao nodded slightly. I was silent for a moment and said, "I don't know how to describe my feelings for her. I only know that my life would be grey without her." After hearing this, Yu Sun Tao looked up at the sky and let out a long sigh. I think, she thinks so too. She turned her head, looked at me, and said, "Lu Su, thank you very much for living in her heart. You have to promise me that you will protect her for the rest of your life." "I will." Yu Sun Tao continued, "Your future life will not be peaceful. She may leave you for a while to complete something, but I don't think she will leave without saying goodbye this time." "Leave me to finish something?" I looked at Xian Yu Sun Tao in confusion. "It's not good for me to tell you about this. I'll wait until she comes to tell you in person. However, it is also a good thing for you that she leaves you temporarily. At least you won't rely on her for everything, and you can grow up quickly." I nodded and said, "I will grow up and protect the people I want to protect. Su Tianxian has her own things to do, I understand. But I can't accept anyone trying to separate us in any way." Moreover, Yu Sun Tao also said that her temporary departure was of her own free will, not forced. I think this is probably related to that god. After all, I had only fought him off temporarily, and it wouldn't be long before he came back. Yu Sun Tao smiled and said, "You call me sister, and I will tell you something about Tianxian." I rolled my eyes at her and said, "Stop joking, I know you want to tell me. It's so boring." Yu Sun Tao shrugged, and then said, "The reason why Tianxian was chosen by God as his wife has a lot to do with herself. She is the purest and most glorious existence in the world. And if she leaves you, she will most likely accept some kind of inheritance, but don't worry, it won't be difficult for her. When Yu Sun Tao said this, I already had a rough idea. Su Tianqian himself is an extremely special existence. Perhaps, like me, she is the reincarnation of a great god, and she also has missions and tasks that must be completed. I can understand all this. After all, the wall between me and her has been broken down. Yu Sun Tao stood up and said, okay. I can only say this much. I believe it won't be long before Tianqian will confess everything to you. After saying that, Yu Sun Tao turned and left. I got up and found Su Fu and asked, what is the trouble you are facing? Su Fu was stunned for a moment, let out a long sigh, and said, I am neither a human nor a ghost now. Once I leave Penglai Island, my body will rot. As he spoke, Su Fu rolled up his sleeves, and spots similar to corpse spots appeared on his arms. Why is it like this? Su Fu replied, Zhao Mian tricked me into taking the elixir he refined. I didn't have any special feelings at first. Over time, when I wanted to leave Penglai Island, I discovered this problem. I frowned and asked, how long can you hold on? Su Fu thought for a while and replied, about half a month. I nodded and said, don't worry, I will help you solve this matter in half a month. My first priority now is to return to Jiyuntang, obtain Jingxiao, and then rescue Xiang Yi. I will keep Su Fu's matter in mind and try to find out if there is any solution. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 965. Thank you, Your Majesty. Su Fu cupped his hands at me and said. I waved my hand and said, you don't have to thank me for this. Since you have decided to stay with me and work for me, I will naturally not treat you badly. The building boat was sailing slowly. At this moment, from the corner of my eye, I suddenly noticed a bright light appearing next to me. I looked and saw a dazzling light rising slowly in the pitch-black darkness. This beam of light dispelled the dark fog and brought light to the dark world. I know, that's the sun. It seems that we are about to leave the lost realm and return to the coast. And now is the time to send those 3,000 boys and girls away from here. I called the children to the deck and said, we have accomplished what we promised you. You can leave when we get out of the lost realm. The reason these children refused to leave was Su Fu. Now that Su Fu and the others have seen it, there is no reason to stay in the world of the dead. 3,000 boys and girls, you looked at me, I looked at you, then they all turned their heads and knelt down towards me and Su Tianqian. Thank you, big brother, big sister, for putting an end to our obsessions. Su Tianqian said, you don't need to kneel, get up quickly. This is what I promised you, and I will naturally do it. 3,000 boys and girls stood up and thanked us too again. I looked at Su Fu and said, let's say goodbye to them properly. Su Fu nodded. Su Tianqian and I stood on the side of the boat. Because we were about to leave the lost realm, the black mist around us was not that dense. We looked at the churning water in the slightly dim morning light. You seem to like children very much. Su Tianqian was stunned for a moment, then nodded slightly. I continued to ask, do you like boys or girls? Su Tianqian was silent for a moment and said, I like them all. Afterwards, Su Tianqian and I seemed to be in some kind of awkward situation, and for a while no one knew what to say. Soon, I saw the beach, and I turned around to summon the gates of the underworld to send these children away. After sending these children away, the building boat came to the seaside. We got off the boat, and the building boat behind us lacked the support of Yin Tong's Yin Qi, so it turned into little golden light and dissipated in the air. We returned to the hotel and I booked a ticket back to Tianfu City. Because Jins didn't have an ID card, we could only take the bus. Fortunately, it's not too far from Tianfu City, so you can get there soon. When leaving, Su Tianqian said goodbye to Yu Sun Tao. Su Tianqian asked, do you want to go back to Daemon? Yu Sun Tao nodded and replied, go back, Daemon has been making some moves recently. I will go back to investigate and then help you secretly. Be safe. Yu Sun Tao said, okay, I understand. After saying that, she turned and left. Later, Su Tianqian, Jins, and I took the bus to Tianfu City. At noon, we returned to Jiyuntang. Jins seemed a little embarrassed because I mentioned Miao Fengluan and Xiahe to her before. She was also a little worried about whether she could get along well with them. I pushed open the door of Jiyuntang and saw Xiaohe sitting on the 8 Immortals chair with his back stretched out. There was also a plate of fruit on the table. Obviously, Miao Fengluan cut the plate of fruit for it, because this cheap bird would never do it like this. When he saw me coming back, Xiaohe jumped up from the 8 Immortals chair. Boss! You are back. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 966. With that said, Xiahe is going to give me a big bear hug. I just reached out and pushed it aside. Stop disgusting me. Xiaohe pretended to be aggrieved and said, boss. We haven't seen each other for such a long time. Don't you miss me? I rolled my eyes and didn't bother to talk to her anymore. Miao Fengluan heard the sound and hurried down from the second floor. There was a chicken following behind. Pleiades chicken? Why is this guy so fat? The Pleiades chicken used to be majestic and domineering, but now it looks like a little pig, and it's a little difficult to walk. Lusu. You're back. Miao Fengluan said in surprise. I nodded and said with a smile, I'm back. The Pleiades chicken came to me with a clucking sound, looked me up and down, then turned his head and found a place to lie down. I pointed at the Maori chicken and said, why is this guy so fat? Miao Fengluan stuck out her tongue and replied, it's so edible. I don't know how much food it eats in a day. I originally wanted to control its diet, but, sometimes, when I sleep, it will wake me up and feed me. It makes food. The corner of my mouth twitched slightly, this Pleiades chicken was so edible. At this moment, I heard rapid footsteps coming from the second floor. Then, I saw a pair of slender white legs appearing on the stairs. It's Huaxiu. She woke up. Huaxiu's steps were quick, his expression was surprised, and his eyes were full of excitement. Brother Royal. Huaxiu shouted at me. Then he came to me in a few steps and fell into my arms. Brother Imperial. You are finally back. I stretched out my hand, gently touched Huaxiu's head, and said, when did you wake up? Huaxiu raised her pretty face and said, I've been awake for a while. Speaking of which, Huaxiu and I haven't seen each other for a while. After chatting for a while, Hua Xiaoqiang's nose slightly wrinkled, then she frowned and asked, Brother Emperor, why do you have corpse aura on your body? I was stunned for a moment, raised a wry smile on my lips, and simply told him about the general's power. After hearing this, Huaxiu's expression became a little ugly. However, she didn't say anything. Don't worry, I will solve this matter properly. Taking this opportunity, I introduced Jins to everyone. Let me introduce to you, this is Jins, a shark man. Jins timidly said, hello everyone. After hearing this, Xiaohe quickly came to Jin Se, stretched out his hand and said, hello, my name is, Xiaohe, and I am a birdman. As soon as these words came out, everyone present laughed. However, what Xiaohe said was not wrong. Jin's nervousness was instantly relieved by Xiaohe's words. Seeing everyone laughing at him, Xiaohe said angrily, can't you give me a nicer name? It also thought we were laughing at its name. Xiao He, isn't this bad? I said. Xiao He was furious, so I ignored it and said to Miao Fengluan, please take good care of Jin's. Miao Fengluan nodded. Later, I returned to my house and found Jingxiao. I took Jingxiao to Su Tianxuan's bedroom and knocked gently on the door. Come in. I was slightly stunned. In the past, Su Tianxian would not let me enter her house. I opened the door, and the faint fragrance penetrated my nose. Su Tianxian changed his clothes and sat on the bed. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 967. Su Tianxian wore a pink night dress with cute cartoon patterns printed on it. The nightgown highlights Su Tianxuan's curvy figure, with just the right proportions, slender and fair legs, a slender waist, and a rather sizable chest. It's like Nuwa gave everything to Su Tianxian when she created human beings. If I guessed correctly, she wanted to take a bath and have a good rest. What happened these days is really tiring, and it would be good to take a good rest. But what I didn't expect was that Su Tianxian would actually like cute cartoon characters. And the color of the nightgown is actually pink. It seems that no matter how aloof Su Tianxian looks, he still has the innocence and cuteness of a little girl in his heart. Su Tianxian glanced at me lightly and said, sit down. I sat next to her, and the faint fragrance penetrated into my nose, making me a little dizzy, and the same feeling came from the bottom of my heart. Master, Tianxian, I brought Jingxiao. I blurted out Master's words subconsciously, because these two words have already been engraved in my memory, and I won't be able to change them for a while. Su Tianxian nodded slightly, took Jingxiao from my hand and stretched out his slender jade hand to gently stroke the sword body. Xiao Su, you can't lose it again this time. Su Tianxian raised his head and stared at me quietly with his beautiful eyes. I nodded and said, Tianxian, don't worry, even if I lose my life, I will never lose it again. Su Tianxian quickly stretched out his green-white fingers and gently touched my mouth. Don't say anything about death. No matter what happens, we must live well. I looked at the suffocatingly beautiful Su Tianxian, and the softness in my heart was touched again. Good. Later, Su Tianxian asked me to summon the heart sword. I stretched out my hand and shook it, and the heart sword appeared in my hand. The heart sword is something condensed by my consciousness and soul. Only I can pick it up. I don't know why Su Tianxian picked it up so easily. Su Tianxian placed Jingxiao on the bed, then stood up and placed the heart sword on Jingxiao. She squeezed the formula with both hands and muttered words, and then something magical happened. The heart sword body slowly emitted a dazzling light. Slowness and Jingxiao merged into one. In an instant, Jingxiao was as dazzling as the dazzling stars. Okay, from now on, this Jingxiao will be like the heart sword. You can summon it at any time as long as you want. I picked up Jingxiao and held it in my hand. At this moment, I felt an unprecedented aura of awe. This aura was thousands of times more powerful than the heart sword. I took Jingxiao back and didn't leave in a hurry. Su Tianxian and I sat side by side on the bed. At first, neither of us spoke. After a while, it was still Su Tianxian was the first to speak. Xiao Su, you have to handle the next matter properly. After all, this is about the underworld. If Zhang Yachain can really seize power, then the world will definitely be devastated. After hearing this, I replied, Tianxian, I have a question for a long time. You say. Zhang Yachain launched a mutiny in the underworld, and the 10 palaces of Yama, the 4 ghost kings, and the 4 judges would just sit idly by and watch. This is what I'm most confused about. People even hit you at the door of your house, but you didn't react at all. Isn't this just letting others bully you? If one of the 10 halls of hell were to take action, Zhang Yachain would not succeed. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 968. You must know that the existence of the 10 palaces of Yama is second only to the 5 directions Ghost Emperor 10 palaces of Yama. How could he, a little city god, be able to shake it? Why, let me, an outsider, handle this matter. Su Tianqian pondered for a moment and said, the division of forces and the ownership of rights in the underworld are far from being as simple as we imagined. Whether it is the Fengdu Emperor or the 5 Ghost Emperors, they all have their own positions and purposes. I was slightly stunned. Logically speaking, as gods of the underworld, they should share the same hatred, but why should they want to split? Su Tianqian seemed to have seen through my inner thoughts and said, although they are gods, their hearts are not as noble as we imagined. You can also understand this. Some people work hard to have a god. There are also people who try their best to escape from the divine position. I know that I am the person Su Tianqian said wants to leave the divine position. After my memory was awakened by Zhao Mian last time, I already understood what I had been pursuing. If, at the end of the matter, I will return to the position of God, then naturally I am not willing to do so. Because becoming a god means giving up everything. I am not alone. I have friends, including Su Tianqian. Naturally, I cannot abandon them to pursue supreme rights. Su Tianqian looked at me quietly and said, I think you should also know something. The sky coffin was created by you, and the 9 evil stars inside were also imprisoned by you during the reincarnation process. I had some speculations about the sky coffin before. The general content of the guess is the same as what Su Tianqian said. Because of the inextricable connection between the 9 evil stars and me, I gained many abilities from them, such as the soul-stealing blood hand, the 9 eyes heavenly domain, the karmic fire, etc. These powers belong to me. I think they were given away because I wanted to suppress them. Su Tianqian stood up slowly and said, well, it's not realistic for you to stay out of the underworld affairs. You'd better think about how to deal with this matter first. I nodded, then stood up and was about to leave. Before I left, I suddenly remembered something and asked, Tianqian, I have always had a question. Why don't you want me to call you Tianqian? Su Tianqian was stunned for a moment, lowered his eyes, and murmured to himself, you will know later. Seeing that Su Tianqian refused to say anything, I did not continue to ask. Then I turned around and left Su Tianxuan's bedroom. When I returned to my room, I started thinking about how to rescue Xiang Yi. The place in Bamang Mountain is extremely dangerous. It is very likely that I alone will not be able to solve this matter. But when Huaxiu wakes up, I can let her go with me. I'll ask Huaxiu for his opinion later. Just as I was thinking, there was a knock on the door. I got up and opened the door and saw Miao Fengluan standing at the door. What's wrong? I asked. Miao Fengluan said with some surprise, Brother Tiansheng is here. I was stunned and quickly followed Miao Fengluan to the first floor. I saw Master Gui standing there and looking at me with a smile. We chatted for a while, and then Master Ghost said, I came to you to return the Yin soldiers. I was stunned and asked, is the matter resolved so quickly? Master Gui nodded and replied, yes, those Yin soldiers already care about our Xie family. I won't take any effort to bring them back under my command. Hearing this sentence, I suddenly had an idea in my mind, why not let Master Gui help me? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 969. Young Master Ghost is the successor of Jingmen City God. Great changes have taken place in Jingmen City God, and his position as City God has been taken away. Now the Ghost Master has taken Jingmen City God back. He should naturally become the City God of Jingmen City God. The 4 major city gods have rich backgrounds. If he can get the help of Jingmen City God, this trip to Bamang Mountain should be much easier. I was just about to tell this matter, but Master Gui's face suddenly became serious, and he said to me, "You should know that Zhang Yuchain united with other city gods to launch a mutiny in the underworld, right?" I nodded and said, "I know, Zhang Yuchain is in Bamang Mountain now, and I am planning to go there." I told Master Gui everything about Xiangyi being trapped in Bamang Mountain. Master Gui frowned after hearing this and said, "It's difficult to bring Master Xiang out just by yourself. Let's do this. Our troops will be divided into 2 groups. You will go directly to Bamang Mountain, while I will return to Jingmen City God to lead my army to assist you." This was my plan from the beginning. There are many ghosts in Bamang Mountain, and there are countless emperors and generals buried there. It will be much easier with the help of Jingmen City God's Yin soldiers. "Okay, then I'll leave this matter to you." Master Gui waved his hand and said, "You and I should not talk about anything that is troublesome or not. Without you, I am afraid I would have died long ago." Hearing this sentence, I was slightly startled. Master Gui has changed a lot. Previously, the Ghost Master gave me the impression that he was a rich second-generation ghost, willful and unreasonable. But after this incident, Master Gui has matured a little. It seems that sometimes once a weight is placed on the shoulders, the person can only grow. Master Gui said goodbye to Miao Fengluan and left without saying anything more. Xiao He came over and asked, "Boss, are you going to Bamang Mountain? Take me with you." "Take you with me?" I glanced at Xiao He. "Will I take you with me to cause trouble?" Seeing that I looked down on him, Xiao He said angrily, "Boss, I am different from what I used to be. If you take me there, I will definitely be able to help you." I thought about it and said, "Okay, I'll make an exception and take you there once." Xiao He cheered and I rolled my eyes. I came to Huaxiu's room. Huaxiu heard the noise and got up from the soul coffin. Huaxiu's eyes were sleepy, he yawned and murmured, "Brother Emperor, what can I do for you?" Logically speaking, zombies cannot sleep. But Huaxiu is very special. She can only evolve into a non-bone by sleeping deeply. I hesitated and asked, "How long will it take you to wake up this time?" Huaxiu rubbed his eyes and said, "It should take a long time. Besides, I recently discovered something interesting." "Fun? What's fun?" Huaxiu jumped out of the soul coffin, grabbed my hand and walked towards a room on the 2nd floor. This room, I seem to know what the fun thing Huaxiu said is. Huaxiu opened the door and pointed at an old computer and said, "That's it?" The corners of my mouth twitched slightly and I said, "This computer is so old, what kind of games can it play?" Huaxiu rolled his eyes and said, "There are so many things to play with, look at this." Huaxiu sat in front of the computer and opened Minesweeper, and started playing with enthusiasm. Seeing this scene, I shook my head slightly and took out my phone from my pocket. "Stop playing with that crappy computer and play with your phone." Then I taught Huaxiu how to download the software. Sky Coffin. Author, Qingnian Wanba. Chapter 970. Previously, Huaxiu would only watch dramas on her mobile phone. But this time, she just grabbed the phone from my hand and started playing games as if she had discovered a new world. I raised the corners of my mouth slightly and said with a smile, "I'll buy you a new mobile phone later." Huaxiu's eyes lit up and he asked, "Really?" I nodded. Huaxiu pointed to the old computer and said, "Then you can replace this with a new one too." "Okay, okay." Then I told Huaxiu about Bamang Mountain, and Huaxiu agreed. I seriously doubt that Huaxiu didn't listen to me from beginning to end, because her eyes didn't leave the phone screen at all. After Huaxiu and I finished talking, we found Su Tianxian, and the two of us discussed the preparations for going to Bamang Mountain. Su Tianxian said, "This time when you go to Bamang Mountain, please call Fengluan along. She will help you a lot." I nodded. In fact, I also had this plan. Although Miao Fengluan was not strong, his two abilities, Shinayan and Shinayu, were unparalleled. If Miao Fengluan could maximize these two abilities, he would be able to hide tens of thousands of Yin soldiers, let alone one person. Finally, Su Tianqian and I decided to leave tomorrow. I told Miao Fengluan the news in the evening, and she said with some surprise, "Is it true?" I smiled and said, "Of course it's true." Miao Fengluan's eyebrows were filled with joy. As for Jins and Maoriji, let them stay in Jiyuntang to look after the house for the time being. Early the next morning, I, Su Tianqian, Huaxiu, Miao Fengluan and Xiao He set out for Bamang Mountain. Because of Xiao He, I can only take the bus. The journey is far and long, and there are not many people riding in this car. Counting us and the driver, there are only 10 people. Su Tianqian sat next to me with his eyes closed, while Huaxiu turned into an internet-addicted girl and focused on playing the game. Xiao He pointed and complained. "Your skills are simply too good. Do you believe that I can play with birds' feet better than you? Push the tower. Push the tower. Oh, let me go. You old man. You are so shady." Under the bombardment of Xiao He's mouth, Huaxiu couldn't bear it anymore. "If you dare to say another word, do you believe I will stew you?" Xiao He shrank his neck, curled his lips, and said no more. Time passed minute by minute, and soon it was night. Su Tianqian suddenly asked me, "Are you hungry? I brought some fruit before I came here. Do you want to eat it?" I was stunned for a moment, then felt warm in my heart, and then nodded. Su Tianqian took out some fruits from her backpack and gave them to others. She carefully helped me peel the bananas. At this moment, the bus suddenly stopped. I looked out the window. The bus was in a deserted mountain. Could it be that the bus had broken down? Then I saw the driver leave the driving seat and get out of the car. I looked out of the car and saw the driver talking to 3 people. I frowned. It was a dark and windy night in the deserted mountains and there was still someone blocking the car. Soon the driver and the 3 people agreed on the price, and the 3 people walked up one after another. The 3 of them were dressed very strangely, their bodies covered tightly, and their exposed skin was extremely pale. The 3 men came to the back of the car and sat down. I whispered in Su Tianxian's ear, "Tianqian, do you feel that the 3 of them are a little weird?"